Hello everybody, it's Rosaline, and today I'm going to do a video, a very special one that I'd like to call Crime and Punishment. This is a dedication to a manga that I recently finished reading. I currently can't say the last words, but it's brutal, and the main character is a detective named Hiroki Dan, who is also a serial killer, but don't worry, he only kills people that the law can't catch. This is going to be a video in dedication to some of his victims, and I want you guys to decide whether or not if the punishments he bestowed upon them were justified, or if they didn't receive enough punishment, or if it was too much, depending on what they were guilty of. So without further ado, here they come. Also, before I begin with the countdown, I want to go ahead and say that there's going to be a lot of massive spoilers. So for those who don't want to be spoiled, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the manga so that you guys can read it for yourself. And if you guys want to, you guys can go ahead and come back after reading it so that you guys can have a better understanding of whether or not if they deserved it. Now, our first victim is Sozen Yoshi, who appears in the very first chapter. Now, Sozen is responsible for the murder of 2 young girls whom he killed by strangulation. After keeping their bodies in his house for a certain amount of time, he eventually wrapped them up and sent the gifts as gifts to the children's parents. He was eventually arrested, yet instead of getting the death penalty, he instead simply remained in prison for, I think, like 18 years. When he was finally let out, he went around claiming that he truly felt sorry and that he wished that he had been punished. During this time, it's also revealed that he was going to write a book in dedication to what he had done. And this is where we see Hiroki's first act, when his eyes are twitching. It's later on that we learn that he did not actually feel any guilt or regret for what he had done, even bragging about how he killed the children. Later on, when he's on a subway train, he finds himself staring at a small girl and imagining strangling her the same way he did to the other little girls. However, he eventually gets captured by Hiroki Dan. Now, his punishment was that he was bound to a chair and his arms and legs were cut off with a chainsaw. However, he lost consciousness at some point. When he woke up in front of a mirror, and when asked what happened to his arms and legs, it's here that it's revealed that Hiroki literally, shaped his arms to look like a Christmas tree. After this, Sozen ends up begging to die, which leads to Hiroki taunting him by telling him didn't he previously say that he wanted to apologize to the families of the little girls he killed. But now he realizes that he obviously didn't really mean it when he said so. After he eventually he either died from blood loss or one of the things that Hiroki does to his victims is that he usually burns them. But from what I could tell, he was clearly dead by the time his body was being burned. Now, victim number 2 is Ikawaki Teru. He was a university student who was a part of this group, and it's eventually revealed that his group were responsible for the rape of several young ladies. Taking advantage of his high status, he used his lawyer to create blackmail against the girls, one of the victims even being told that they recorded her giving consent. Teru really is a disgusting guy because he literally says that one of the number 1 rules about the group is that they have to share everything. Unfortunately, he takes it a step too far when one of the members of his group decides that he no longer wants to be a part of it due to the fact that he now had a girlfriend. This leads to Teru and the other guys kidnapping the man and his girlfriend and forcing her to use a cucumber, but when she refused, they put a cigarette out in her boyfriend's eye. After this, they literally forced him to watch as they all took turns raping his girlfriend, while Teru mocks him by reminding him that if they're part of the group, they have to share everything, meaning that he had to share his girlfriend. Unfortunately for him, this resulted with the young man eventually breaking into the apartment and killing most of them with an axe. Luckily, or rather unluckily for Teru, Hiroki had sent him a message telling him to go to the balcony. As a result, he was spared from being hacked to death. However, he ended up learning the hard way that he actually escaped a much better way to die. It's here that he is knocked unconscious and wakes up in the same room where Hiroki tortures all of his other victims. It's here that Hiroki tells him about his favorite movie, The Exorcist, and about the scene where the young girl is using the cross. And he then proceeds to explain that he has one. He has a spiked cross, but he's not going to use it on himself. Instead, he wants to use it on Teru to see whether or not if it does feel good. It's here that Hiroki proceeds to penetrate Teru with the spiked cross and taunting him, asking him, let's see how many thrusts he could handle, even asking him to make the same pose that he would always make whenever he assaulted the other girls. It's here that Hiroki proceeds to thrust the spiked cross into this young man a total of 666 times, only to realize that he had at some point died. He either died from internal hemorrhage or he died from blood loss. Did he deserve it? I'll let you guys decide. Coming in at number 3 is Masaharu Onizuka. Now, this guy is really something. The dude was a reporter or a journalist, and he was known for interviewing people. However, as time goes by, it's made pretty clear that he takes things just a little too far, to the point where his actions are borderline on harassment. Literally confronting a young boy and asking him how did it feel watching his mother get killed in front of him, later going to the killer's mother and accusing her of abusing her son, and telling her that if she did abuse her son, that it's her own fault that her son killed somebody. When the woman committed suicide out of guilt, he then proceeded to literally harass the daughter. While this was going on, his daughter was bullying a teacher, and that bullying eventually resulted with not only the teacher getting fired, but the teacher would go on to murder his wife, commit suicide, and he actually came very close to killing his young daughter. Okay, I gotta stop this recording real quick to make a quick announcement. I forgot to mention this, but I reread it, that Masaharu had also harassed the teacher and was the reason why he had gotten him fired, and made it look like, oh, he's a harasser who hurt his daughter. Yet he still blamed her for it. I just realized I forgot to add that part. It seems as though not even his own family are safe from him, because as he's listening to his daughter voice her guilt, he proceeds to tell her that it is her fault that the teacher had committed suicide and killed his wife, telling her that no matter how much she wants to deny it, she is a killer. He literally pressures his daughter to give him details about what she had done, and basically telling her that the teacher's death was her own fault. He literally pushes his own daughter to suicide and is not even bothered by it, instead coming to the conclusion that he will become the king of journalism or something because he got a good story. It's here that he ends up attracting the attention of Hiroki, who then kidnaps him. He wakes up in a room tied to a chair, and it's here that the punishment begins. His punishment is Hiroki pours a very strong dose of hydrofluoric acid onto the man's face, while saying that it's holy water. He then asks him the same question that he asked all of his victims: how do you feel? However, when the man refused to speak, Hiroki then proceeds to force him to drink the acid while screaming, "The power of Christ compels you." The man eventually dies from either severe internal damage to his throat and stomach, or he died from the shock due to the acid burning his insides. Did he deserve it? I'll let you decide. Coming in at number 4 is Yudai Oga. Yudai was a man who worked in a business company, and he is a huge misogynist. The man likes to harass women, having the nerve to think that certain women with certain features aren't allowed to exist, even going as far as ridiculing a young woman for bringing her baby onto a train, which leads to Hiroki trying to comfort the woman because, well, just like he says later on, he loves babies. It's here that later on he would kick a stroller and try to make it look like it was the mother's fault. But his real shithole behavior is when he sees a businesswoman cradling her child in a hug. It's here that he decides that life would be better if the woman and her child no longer existed. While the woman is distracted, and as the train is getting ready to stop and the doors are about to open, he undoes the back of the strap, causing the baby to fall forward. Before the mom has time to react, he shoves her. Luckily, the baby is unharmed, but the mother strikes her head after hitting the pavement trying to protect her baby. And This is what provokes Hiroki to finally decide that he deserves to be punished, later spiking his drink. He then wakes up tied to a stroller at the top of a bridge. It's here that Hiroki reveals that people used to use it for bungee jumping, and it's here that he straps the guy. The guy tries to beg, claiming that he's not a bad person, that he was just having a bad day, which leads to Hiroki telling him that if his luck is that bad, then let's see if he can survive this. He then pushes him while saying that right now the only thing keeping him from dying is the bungee jump, but for the babies, the thing that keeps them safe is the hug, which the man is currently wearing. It's here that Hiroki literally bungee jumps with him, and eventually the strap that was holding the man ends up breaking due to the force of the bungee jump, and he falls into the creek, striking his head on a nearby rock. I personally think that this part is the funniest because it's pretty obvious that Hiroki didn't fully plan on this, and the next day he ends up with really, really sore muscles, but simply tells his coworker that, oh, I had a great day, but my muscles are sore. Did he deserve it? I'll let you decide. Up next is Ue Naoki. Naoki was a young man who wanted to be a famous YouTuber. However, he began to realize that the videos that he previously made weren't exactly getting the attention that he desired. He would eventually finally get the attention he wanted when he recorded the aftermath of an elderly man getting struck by a car. This resulted with him getting a lot of attention, him even going as far as making it look like the police are the bad people for harassing him for simply recording what had happened. It's here that Naoki begins to decide that he needs to find even more intense things. And so he begins to cause even more trouble, eventually convincing a young woman, I'm presuming to believe that that was his girlfriend, into coming with him on a train and trying to make it look like a random man had groped her. Despite the young man insisting that he did not touch the woman, it's here that Naoki starts harassing him despite the man begging and insisting that he did not touch her. However, Naoki continues to harass the man and trying to shove the camera in his face, resulting with the man becoming so scared that he tries to run from them. Unfortunately, the man ends up getting struck and killed instantly. While this is going on, Naoki is thinking to himself how proud he is over what he's done because he literally managed to catch someone die on tape. Now, I think one of the most messed up things about this man was that his girlfriend has suicidal tendencies, and she was overwhelmed with guilt over the fact that she, in a way, had inadvertently caused the man's death. It's here that she literally approaches Naoki and begs him to tell her that she's not a bad person and that she was simply doing what he had told her to do. However, he mocks her, and when he realizes that she's really affected by this, it's here that he shows his true colors by telling her that if she truly feels guilty, then she should kill herself. But before doing that, she should record it and send it to him because it would definitely be useful material for him to make in the future. After this, he goes home only to receive a package, which is a video of Hiroki dancing. At first, he doesn't think anything much of it until he realizes that it's a recording of his own room. It's here that he's finally apprehended by Hiroki. His punishment: being taken to a room where Hiroki had many of his cars, and it's here that Hiroki proceeds to run over the young man's arms and legs while recording, teasing him, telling him that it's not enough and that they need more. Eventually, he would die from either the shock or blood loss after having both his arms and his legs run over and literally torn apart by the wheels of the car. Did he deserve it? I'll let you guys see. Now, our final one was a little bit of a doozy because it involves 3 people. Originally, I was going to judge them individually, but considering that they all were guilty of the same crime, I feel as though they should all be mentioned at once. So these young men are Kusano Ikuta, Tomotsu Harada, and Takashi Obayashi. These young men were, from what I could tell, wannabe stars, and they seemed to think that they were better than others, stealing food and drinks from a store and accusing the owner of being a bad person for ridiculing them for opening the drinks, and eventually harassing a few homeless people, beating a homeless man because he told them that they weren't allowed to do fireworks there, and mocking them for being smelly and gross. Later on, they would begin to burn another homeless man's house down while not being aware that the homeless man was actually inside the tent when they set it on fire. He didn't die, but he did suffer severe burns. Eventually, they come face to face with the exact same homeless man that scolded them for the fireworks. It's here that he realizes that they were the ones who burned the other house, injuring the other man and threatening to expose them. It's here, however, that Ikuta proceeds to beat the old man, and eventually his friends join in too. Now, I personally believe that out of all three of them, Ikuta was literally the worst one, whereas guy number 3, Takashi, I feel as though he was more of the I follow the crowd kind of person. Realizing the seriousness of what they did, they take the man's body and take it to the woods, not knowing that they accidentally ended up in Hiroki's property while he was searching for mushrooms. The funny thing is that Hiroki never actually intended on killing these men. The only reason why they became his next target was because the old man had a dog. They injured the dog, and the dog found Hiroki and lured him to where his owner's grave was. It's here that Hiroki goes looking for the 3 men and knocks them unconscious. What was their punishment? He buried them alive all the way up to their necks until they were begging for forgiveness. Their cause of death was either being crushed by the weight of the dirt or suffocation. Now, one of the things that I find amusing about this one is how quickly their punishment was, mainly due to the fact that Hiroki didn't catch them with the intent of killing them. He literally went there just to get some mushrooms because, well, he likes to eat them because they were in season. And so this is the end of Crime and Punishment. Like I said before, I will leave a link to the manga in the description, and I hope you guys can tell me whether or not if you guys believe that the crime fit the punishment.